Hey guys, this is Aditi from Garden on My Mind. Recently, I have received a lot of requests from many of you asking me about how I maintain my indoor plants, or rather indoor garden. So today's video would be focused on that. I'll try to cover all the aspects that I keep in mind while maintaining my indoor plants. Apart from that, I think the first and the foremost thing that you need to remember is that there is nothing called an indoor plant. Plants are supposed to be outside. Plants have always grown historically outside, four walls. Just because we human beings wanted to bring greenery inside our houses, because of aesthetic reasons or whatever that might be, because it looks nice in a corner. So there are certain plants which are termed as indoor because of the fact that they can do well in indirect sunlight, or say in a shade or a low light area. So we have categorized certain list of plants which do well in indoors. For example, pothos, your all kind of philodendrons, anthuriums, aglaonemas, arrowheads, etc. And these plants, if they are provided the right conditions in the house, they would do extremely well. So coming back to your question in terms of how I maintain my indoor garden. So first step is that if you want to buy a plant for any of the rooms in your house, assess the lighting conditions there. That is the foremost thing. Do your research in terms of what kind of lighting conditions it needs, and see, watering and fertilizing you can take care of it, but lighting is the most important part, one of the most important part that has to be taken care of when you want to bring a plant indoors. The next step is to go to a nursery and buy your plants. I'll be very honest with you that I have been very choosy about the nurseries that I go to, because quality of the plant really matters. Though you pay a certain, rupees or dollars extra for that, but the quality will go a long way. And there are few nurseries which I go to regularly, because I know the plants that I'll bring from there will not die on me, and they would be of good quality, and I would be able to propagate those plants further. Once you go to a nursery, you should always look for healthy plants. So a few days back, I think day before yesterday, I visited a nursery. I bought these syngoniums. So once you like a plant, you should check out the foliage, whether it's healthy or not. So if you look at this syngonium, it's pretty healthy. If you see this leaf, it's shiny, it's bright, except for these white marks, which are nothing but the NPK sprays that they do frequently. And when I look at the soil, when I take it out, the soil looks good, the root system looks good. The roots have to be a little light in color, like this one, it is white and light, kind of brown. But don't buy any plants which the roots look soggy to you, because that means the root rot has started and the plant might die in future. This roots, wow, look at the roots. The roots are so nice, fresh and white. This is an indication that this plant is healthy, the root system is good, the soil is good, as I can see. So I can leave it in the nursery pot for about next 4 to 6 months. So once you've checked the soil, which if it looks good, the roots look good, and you bring the plant at home, I would recommend, if the soil is good, leave it in the nursery pot. Because if you've been to a nursery, they have these greenhouses. It might look very bright and all, and if you look at the top, you'll realize it has a shade. They have these, misting pipes all around. So it is getting the best environment for it to flourish. But when we bring it back at home, our homes are not, established as greenhouses. So the plants also get a shock from that environment to this environment. So we let these plants sit in the nursery pot for at least 4 to 6 months. If the soil is good, you don't need to change it. If the plant is doing really good, you don't need to change and repot the plant. You need to repot it only when the plant outgrows the pot size, or the soil needs, repotting, etc. And you can check out this video of mine where I have talked about that, what are the signs that you should follow to repot your plants. And if you want your plants to look beautiful after you bring it from the nursery, you can just, take these cover pots. Like, there are huge varieties in terracottas, clay pots, ceramics, plastic even, and just put it in. Just like that. It gives an entirely new look to the plant or wherever you want to place it. But when you buy plants online, what they generally do is of course they cannot send the whole pot to you, so they take out the plant with the root from the soil and they wrap it in newspaper or something like that and send it. So in that case, you need to repot your plants, and you have to take that leap of faith in terms of whether your plant will be able to survive the travel shock as well as the transplant shock once they get to your home. For example, this is a rare variegated burr marks, and I had to repot it in an aroid soil mixture which I prepared, because you have to repot it because it comes without a pot and without the potting soil. So it's just that, but these plants will take a longer time to adjust, not only to your environment because it's coming from Calcutta, so it will take time to adjust here. So not only the weather, even the soil that I've put it in. So let's see, it's a risk. So now that we have brought plants to our home, what next? The first thing that strikes us is watering, where we generally make a lot of mistakes. Though it might seem very simple. What is watering? You just take water, pour it in the pot and you're done. But it's not that simple. I mean, it's simple, but you just have to make sure that you don't overwater the plants. Overwatering rots the roots and it might do more damage than good. So how do I water my plants? So what I've done is that most of the plants that I have always kept either these pots which has no drainage hole, so that if I'm watering these plants in their spot, the water doesn't flow out and spoil either the floor or the furniture it is on. Or I place these planter plates so that the water gets collected in the plates and I can throw it out throughout the water. I would say for watering your plants, you need to invest in one thing, which are watering cans, something like this. I really love watering my plants with these watering cans, which comes in all shapes and sizes. I think this is 1 liter, this is 1.5 or 2 liters. It comes with like a thin spout or a medium spout or whatever. And I like this the most because it has the right flow of water, this can somehow. And it's easy because if you're, say, you can just fill this in your tap and carry it, and wherever you feel that the plants are dry, you can just pour it. And it is really helpful when, say for example, I have to water this. Even if you put it under a tap or say take a mug or something and try to water it, it won't water that well. So what this spout helps is, it helps to reach to the places which you otherwise would not, because of this long spout that they have. You can just put the water like this inside wherever you want without, causing much dirt either on the floor or on the plants. When we water our plants, we have to make sure that, we water it nicely in the sense that we have to water till the time you see the water dripping outside of the soil, because we want the water to mixed with the soil nicely. For example, this Monstera esculato, so it has been dry, so I'm very paranoid about root rot, so I keep a lot of draining holes. So this way, if you see, it has actually a lot of draining holes. So when the water comes out of the plant, I know that the whole soil has been drenched properly. So once the water has dripped, is out completely, you can put it back in the planter plate. this one as well, I was talking about that these spouts really help in going inside these bushier plants. This again. And once the whole water comes out, you can put it back either in the cover pot, or you can put it back in their plates and put it back where it was. Yes, these are a lot of plants to water. But for these pots, I have made sure that I place them in a way that I don't have to take it to the sink to water them. So either I have kept these pots in cover pots, which no drainage holes, so that the water gets collected I can throw it out later, or these plates. This is okay, this is a bit dry, so I'll just pour the water and I'll just wait for some time because these are here and I don't want to spill the water outside, so I do it slowly. So I let the water drip out first and see how much of it has come out, and then add more water, just to avoid any spillage and extra work. There is one place in my house which I have where I have these wooden planks with round pegs where the pots are sitting. So there is no way but the water to flow out on the floor, which is like once in a week, and we just wipe out the floor to keep it clean. I generally let my plants dry out at least like 1.5 inch from the topsoil before I water them next, because that prevents it from root rotting, because I can't see how the roots are behaving inside. So that has been a general, thumb rule for me. And philodendrons, pothos do well if they dry out in between watering. And if you see this philodendron, this is a Jose Bono, and this one, when I stick my fingers inside, the mud is sticking to my hands, which means that the soil obviously is very moist and doesn't need watering for another 4 to 5 days. And there are two ways to water your plants. Either you can just water it from the top, or you can bottom water it, and you will be amazed that if you leave it in a bowl of water for over about an hour or two, it will slowly absorb the water and it will reach to the top in the sense the top soil will get moist. And it's an amazing way to water your plants if the plants are too dry. And one thing I generally follow regularly is that I take out my plants every 2 weeks or fortnight, you can say, and give them a nice shower. If the plants are small, I do it in the sink itself, but if the plants are big, like really long winding philodendrons, pothos, my huge ficus, lyrata, liver plants, and give them a nice shower, and they seem to be really happy. Lighting is another important aspect for indoor plants. So if you see, this area is very well lit because it is east facing and it gets very nice warm early morning sun. So now it's about 8 a.m. in the morning, and the plants are getting really nice light here. So you have to make sure that indoor plants which genetically are trained to survive, say, in rainforest, under large trees, under shade, etc., should not be given any direct sunlight. So filtered light or bright indirect light, where the sunlight is not falling on the plants directly, would be a great spot for your indoor plants. But whenever you buy a plant, as I mentioned before, just read through it that what are the lighting conditions it needs. For example, some of the plants are categorized as low light plants because they, I won't say do well, but they can survive low lights. For example, snake plant. But you have to remember that light is an essential factor in the growth of the plants, because that is how they make food through photosynthesis. So if they are not getting enough light, the growth will definitely be hampered. So whenever you buy a plant, try to find a bright spot for that plant to flourish, and you will see the rate of the growth that the plant has. Pest management. So most of the indoor plants are susceptible to pests like mealybugs or say white flies or black flies or say these fungal infections, etc. So for mealybugs or any kind of bugs which is like sitting on the leaves or the stalks of the plant, it is easy to manage in the sense that you can see it. And what I generally do is, without applying any kind of pesticides, which I don't use at all, I generally hose with full spray on the plants with water, so that it just washes off, and I do it continuously for about like 1 month, every say 4 to 5 days when the plant is dry. But even after that, if I see that it is still getting infested, it is still continuing, then I add neem oil with a little bit of soap solution and water and spray the plant, and it has helped immensely. Next is fertilizing your plants. So for me, what helps actually is to use a liquid fertilizer, because it's very easy. You can just mix it in water based on the ratio which is given in the labels, and just pour it when you're watering your plants. So it is very convenient for me. So I would say 80% of the time I use a liquid fertilizer, primarily the seaweed extract, which is very high in nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, which are the three important nutrients that indoor plants or say foliage plants require. And I also use this liquid fish fertilizer, which is high in nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, and it also has some amount of say magnesium, calcium, etc. So the foliage plants, say the plants which don't flower, require a lot of nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. Nitrogen percentage requirement is higher. So liquid fish fertilizer and seaweed is a very, very good combination that you can use for your plants. One disadvantage of the fish fertilizer is that it is really smelly. So I use a very diluted version, because if I use the ratio which is given in the caps, in the labels, it would smell really bad. And since it is indoors, so for the smell to go away, it takes about 24 hours if it is really harsh. Seaweed extract in that way there's no smell at all, so it's very easy. So I make sure that I fertilize my plants every 2 to 3 weeks. I would say three weeks generally. So I dilute it very lightly. Like if this is the fish fertilizer, I'll just put 2 drops. That's it. Or maybe 1 more. Yeah. Like 3 to 4 drops, very lightly diluted. So it helps in reducing the foul smell of the fish fertilizer, and also because I am fertilizing like on a regular interval, so there's not too much of over fertilizing of the plant. And then we just take it. I generally take it in a watering can, but I'll show you here. So I'll just put a little bit. So this much is more than enough for this size of the pot. You might wonder that why I am fertilizing my plants so often. Growth is of course one of the reasons. The second reason is that I have very good drainage in my pots, and I let the water drain out completely when I'm watering my plants. So in that process, the nutrients of the soil also come out. So the soil is actually depleting the nutrients whenever I'm watering my plants. So that's why I feel that all the drainage of the nutrients that happens every week, that needs to be replenished. There are other fertilizers as well, which are purely organic and very good for plants, very good for the soil conditioning, particularly for indoors. One is the organic leaf mold, which is nothing but compost made out of leaf. So these compost come from places like forest and all, where there is not natural decomposition of all the leaves that are falling on the ground. So that is a very good compost for indoor plants. I also use worm castings and not like vermicompost, because vermicompost will have worms, and they might these creepy crawlies might be all over the place if you overwater them. So worm casting is another good option to just either you can mix it in soil, you can top it in the soil. Those are slow release fertilizer, so every time you water it, it will have the benefits, but liquid fertilizer are more easier to absorb by the plants. last but not the least, you should prune your plants once in a while. Pruning means two types. Pruning could be like either taking out the dead leaves which you see in the plant, or if the plant growth rate has reduced for something like this. So if you see this Brazil, the leaves are quite bushy here, but as it is trailing down, it is becoming smaller and smaller. So if you want a bushier plant, you can just, maybe trim it here from where the leaves are big. So what will happen is it will push growth from here and the leaves will be bigger than this one. If you want that. If you like trailing, you can leave it as is. But little bit of snipping here and there helps in bushing out any kind of plants, and it gives a very fuller look. And if there are dead leaves, for example, oh my god, there are lots here. Say for example in this philodendron micin, you can just pick them up here. There is one here. How picking up the dead leaves help is that when there is a drier part of a plant, the plant tries to revive it and puts all its energy into reviving these dead leaves or dead branches. So what happens that the new foliage does not get enough energy for its growth. So if you help the plant by simply pulling out these dead leaves or dead branches, it will help and push out fresh growth in the new foliage. So just to recap, bring home a healthy plant, don't overwater it, fertilize it well, prune your plants, and check out for pests. And you should be good. So happy gardening. Bye.